Steve's life radically changed one Easter Sunday several years ago, so we're going to ask him a bit about how that happened. Couple of years ago, all right. We're not going to reveal like your age, don't worry. We're not going to start doing our maths. We're going to ask him about that and find out a bit about what God's done in his life. Before we do that, we're wanting to kind of base and theme the whole thing this morning around the importance of being an eyewitness and the impact of Jesus' resurrection upon our senses. That we see, we hear, we smell, we touch. And that's based on something that the Apostle John wrote to his church. He was a pastor as an older man. He wrote a letter to encourage his church. And he started his letter by saying, that which was from the beginning, which we've heard, which we've seen with our eyes, and which we've looked at and our hands have touched, concerning the word of life. This life appeared, and we've seen it, and we testify to it, and we proclaim to you the eternal life that was with the Father and has been made manifest or has appeared to us. That which we have seen and heard, we're telling you about, so that you might have fellowship with us, and as our fellowship is with the Father and with his Son, Jesus Christ. That's what he writes. That's how he starts his letter. And it's that theme of how Jesus impacts our senses, or Easter has an impact on who we are. And our lives, and we can, we can't quite smell Jesus, but we can touch, hear, see. We're impacted by Jesus. So that's where we're going. That's what we're talking about. And I want to hear particularly about how Jesus has done some amazing things in Steve's life. So, Steve, hi. We're coming to you now. Could you tell us a little bit about just the difference that Jesus has made in your life as a Christian?
Yeah. Before I start, this is completely alien to me, so if I stumble, bear with me, please. I'm used to talking to a gang of bricklayers on site, which is slightly different. After the Sunday that it all took place, when I invited Jesus in my life, nothing sort of changed dramatically to start with, really. And it wasn't until I started doing certain things, getting involved with churches and stuff like that, that I noticed that, he's there and he's a friend and I can turn to him in all situations. So as I grew in faith and trusted him more and built my relationship with him, I sort of handed more over to him in my work life, in my family life, and just in everything, really. I've gone through a few bad things in my life over the years and come out of the other side, and but it's just nice knowing that he's there as a friend, as a mate, as a dad, and feeling like a child to him really works.
Wonderful. I know you said to me before that you talk to him regularly throughout your day and think, I don't know, I'd get through my day without talking
definitely.
to him.
I think working on building sites is quite hard, and I've definitely noticed it recently that the site we're doing is very tough, and I have to pray every morning to ask him to come and sort the day out for me, really, because I couldn't get through the day without him. And even some lunchtimes I just ask for more help. Yeah. I might be a bit greedy, but I keep asking, and he keeps giving. So
wonderful.
Yeah.
So have you always had God in your life, or what was life like before you came to faith?
Well, no, I haven't always had God in my life. I really didn't have any religion in my life or any ideas what was going on. Early days, I was a bit of a bad egg. Tried drinking, drugs, got heavily into gambling. This was all pre-Jesus, obviously. I think I was always searching for something. Didn't know what at the time. But, and then probably in the 80s, when my kids were young, my parents used to go to a church in Cowfold. So sort of pop my head in there occasionally, not on a regular basis, but every now and again, just to be with the children sort of thing. So that's pretty much.
I mean, I know in you, like, as I have done for the past 10 years or so, you're such a kind and generous man, but you
really?
told me
Don't
that
make me blush.
You told me that you were a nightmare for your mum growing up.
Yes.
So tell us a bit more about that, Steve. Just between you and me, I won't tell anyone.
Well, I think it stems from, this is probably going into a bit of a story that we want to follow later, but it stems from me being when I was very young, I think I was about 15 months old, I fell into a top-loader washing machine and, scalded my foot and my leg and ankle and spent a lot of time in hospital. And I think what happened, I don't really know this for sure, but I believe that I turned to a nurse in the hospital and I thought she was my mum. And so I had a reaction to that later on in my life where I was totally anti my mother. So I created hell for them when I was a teenager, basically. Whatever they told me to do, I would do the opposite. And just rebelled, really. So, yeah.
So you had quite a strained relationship with your mum, I know, even as an adult. So when did that... But I know from talking to you, your mum's one of your closest friends now. So talk to us about how things started to turn around for you.
Yeah. The first, I think when God starts to get hold of us, he plants seeds. Obviously, seeds are planted. And back in 1989, I was building a site in Uckfield, and this guy brought all these into the canteen. I don't know if you can see these. It's a tract. So he issued each and every one of us with this tract. And I kept mine, and all the other lads just binned them. We'd done this site 89 and thought nothing more of it, but I was quite interested in that. As I said earlier, I was searching for something, didn't know what it was, and I looked into it a little bit. And then in 1992, Easter Sunday, I was due to play golf at 9 o'clock on the Sunday morning. The lads that booked the tea time didn't book it, so we decided to go out early, at 6 o'clock-ish, I think. So I came back after golf. My girls were at Cowfold Church at the time, so I went along there and got there a tad late. Stood on the side, and it was pretty full up, like this is this morning. And the worship leader, Tom Blairfish, started playing a Don Francesco song called He's Alive. And halfway through it, I literally just got on my knees and wept. And that's when Jesus came into my life, really. And also, the poignant thing is, that morning, my mum also started crying, and we met in the middle of the church and embraced, which we had never done. And it was the start of our relationship as a mother and son after 30-odd years, which, and now we're good friends now. So, it was a brilliant day. And then sort of to follow that, Brian lived in Newark. I was living in Chailey at the time. One of my daughters was asking for a swim party. She'd heard of them. I didn't know he'd done swim parties, but I rang the number up, and lo and behold, it was Brian, who I'd worked for back in 89. And we were talking, and I told him that I'd just given my life to Jesus and stuff. And Uckfield Church at the time had just started an Alpha course, so I jumped in on that with him. And obviously the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah, wow. So it's amazing to see the turnaround and the impact that Jesus has made in your life.
Yeah.
And now several decades on, still living every day with him, talking to him, getting your help and strength. Is there anything you want to say as we close?
I think, for me, I never felt I was good enough. I always felt, because I was a bad egg and all that, I thought that I'm never good enough for Jesus, but he loves us. He wants us. Doesn't matter what you've done, what you've said or anything, he's there and he will take you on board, whatever. And if we welcome that in, do it.
Wonderful.